Hello and welcome to Everspace 2, the final preview. Now with the early access of Everspace 2 nearing its end and with most features implemented into the game, I thought it would be the perfect time to give this game a real thorough preview. We will talk the technical stuff like performance, bugs, visuals, audio and music. We will talk gameplay systems, the gameplay itself, story. We'll talk about crafting, missing work in progress features, and my overall thoughts. So that's a lot to cover, buckle up, here we go. Starting up with the boring stuff, the technical side. Now in terms of performance, the game is pretty demanding at the moment. I think there will be a few more passes in terms of optimization, but you can see there are a lot of options that you can toggle, and to make it playable we also have FSR 2.1 at this point in the game, so that helps a lot. In terms of bugs, in my over 70 hours of playtime, I did not encounter a single crash or a game-breaking bug. The only thing I can remember are two smaller glitches in a procedural generated area where a bigger ship glitched into an asteroid, where I thought to myself, okay, this might need a little polish. But apart from that, this game, this early access game, is far more polished than every AAA gaming release in 2022. I can guarantee you that. In terms of visuals, how does this game look? Well, it looks absolutely gorgeous, but take a look for yourself. Next up we have audio and music. Audio in this game is excellent. The sounds for the guns, the combat sounds, everything is executed really well. The underlying score of the game is pretty nice most of the time. I even got some Blade Runnery vibes in one or two locations, and there's a combat music that picks up, so that is all very well done. The only issue I have at the moment is when you are traveling at cruise speed, there's a very bland elevator music running, and you will spend a lot of time in cruise speed. So that piece of music gets repetitive and annoying very fast. But overall, in terms of bugs, performance, visuals and audio and music, this game is in a very good shape. Let's move on to the biggest part. The gameplay systems, the gameplay itself, the story and so on. So let's take a look at the inventory screen and see what kind of systems we have here. So first of all, we have our primary and secondary weapons. That's our left and right mouse button. Then we have our equipment slots. These function like armor in an RPG, so you have something like an energy core, like shields, like a plating and stuff like this. And as you can see, attached to the equipment slots are attributes like, in this case, precision and structure, which you will find on the top right corner. So you can push all these attributes with your equipment, but also with something called mainframe expansions. These will grant you a percentage bonus, and you can find them by solving puzzles and completing area challenges. In the next slot you can see here are some hotkeys attached. We have consumables. These are defensive or offensive options like an additional shield, a temporary cloak, like this is like a health potion. You have a damage booster, so you only have a limited amount available and they usually trigger a cooldown. And you have your inventory and your cargo slots down here. Now on the right side you can also see the stats for your ship. At the moment we have three different kind of ships. Light ships, medium ships and heavy ships, with three classes for each kind of ship. So we have three light classes, three medium classes and three heavy classes. Every class has a special ability. Like in this case, the Vindicator has the ability to use combat drones. we have an ultimate ability that is usually tied to the special, and we have a set of passives, in this case 2, that goes up to 3 depending on the rarity of your ship. And then you have your shield, armor and hull points, and you see handling, speed and your tractor beam range. Of course, the heavy ships have a worse handling than the small ships and are slower, but usually come with a lot more shield and armor and hull points. And you have an overview of your primary, secondary slots, your consumables and devices, and each ship class has a different amount of primary, secondary weapons, and so on and so forth. Speaking of devices, now we're heading to ship, and this ship has 3 devices installed. These are special abilities you can choose from a wide range of different options. In this case we have installed an EMP generator, an anti-missile defense system and a quantum entangler. So as you can see by the colors, there are offensive and defensive options. These devices can be leveled up through device upgrades that you gain automatically when you increase in level. In addition to your equipment, your consumables, your devices, your attributes and your ship stats, you also have perks. There are NPCs that you encounter throughout the story, and these NPCs provide you with a wide range of different perks that you can all level up. These are very simple things like your tractor beam range, but later in the game you also encounter NPCs that will provide you with a fast travel ability. So there's a lot of RPG stuff going on, a ton of progression systems that are worth exploring, perks, devices, skills. You can tinker with these systems and you can really create your own playstyle, your own perfect ship set up with the perfect set of weapons, with the perfect equipment, more leaning into firepower, more offense, more defense, more catered around your ship ability, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot going on, and that is very important because this is set up to be like a looter shooter Diablo in space, and it really delivers on that part. So these systems are very deep, very well thought out and work extremely good together. Now, going away from all the boring number stuff and hopping into space. This game has 2 layers. So first of all, we have a ton of handcrafted content. As you can see, we have different star systems, and in every star system you have a bunch of locations that you can travel to. These are all handcrafted. You will visit some of them during the story or for side missions and so on. These are static environments, but the enemies within them are not. So enemy spawns will be different every time you visit an area. Now this is the open world, but it's not open space. You can travel to all of these locations and you can also travel between the star systems once you have unlocked them during the story. But every time you visit an environment, the game creates a local dungeon of some sort. So it's not really open space. But apart from the handcrafted locations, which there are a lot, you can also just go and travel through space and then react to like something, a distress signal or an unknown signal. And when you follow these signals, the game will create a procedure generated dungeon if you want. And then you will hop into an unknown area that is procedural generated. You have these kind of environments in addition to the handcrafted content. And you can perfectly play just with procedural generated content forever. You have access to these procedural generated content through signals that you can pick up during cruise speed, or you can pick up jobs from the job board. So you are perfectly fine just traveling through the universe using procedural generated content, and that in combination with the handcrafted content gives you a huge amount of content that you can play with. So by no means is this a small game, but what about the main story and side missions? Now, the main story in this game will not win any prizes. It's an okay story, it's not a bad story, but it's also a typical RPG-like story. So get an item, and to get this item you have to do a favor, and so on and so forth. Nothing you have not seen in other RPGs. And sometimes the story takes strange turns and you ask yourself, why is this happening right now? The answer is, it has to happen. So that is all not bad, but it's also not exceptionally good. What really elevates your experience with the story are the different characters you will encounter. These characters are really fleshed out for the most part, very distinct characters, very good voice acting. It was interesting to learn more about the characters and their backgrounds and the interaction with them. Overall, quality of the characters is what really elevates the story, and also the story doesn't take itself too serious. You have a very quirky, funny sidekick AI that works really well. Now, side missions on the other hand are quite a pleasant surprise in this game. They are much better than the main story, and I did not expect that at all. I thought RPG wise, okay, some fetch quests and stuff like that, but no, these are multi-layered quests with interesting characters and interesting missions, like you're encountering a ghost ship and you have an NPC sitting on an invisible station. In most cases I really wanted to progress the side missions because I wanted to know how it goes on. So overall, main story, side missions, characters, voice acting is in a very good place. In addition to the random encounters, the stories and so on, we have what I would call the gimmick content, like puzzles, environmental challenges, races. All this kind of content is well made in itself, but it's not really my cup of tea, or I'm not really deeply interested in things like solving puzzles. Don't get me wrong, I like exploring a region and going through a cave and occasionally maybe getting a battery pack and putting it into a generator. But there are a lot of things like shooting buttons and 2 or 3 of these puzzle elements implemented in the main story I'm not very happy with. But yeah, I can see other people maybe enjoying that kind of stuff more. The developers stated that this is specifically in the game to provide another layer of content apart from just combat and mining and crafting, and I can see that it works if you like that kind of stuff. Same with races. I'm not into that, but they put a lot of effort in these systems. Mining and trading is a little bare bones at the moment. There is some work in progress going on, so I will touch that topic at the end of the video. We also have some endgame activity. Ancient Rifts sounds like Diablo, works like Diablo. If you have ever played with Diablo 3 and explored the rifts there, then you know exactly what this content is all about. This is an endgame progression-based system where you can gain better and better loot with increasingly difficult environments. And at this moment in the game, this is a pretty fresh feature and not perfectly balanced at the moment, so expect a few balance passes. But as you can see, the sheer amount of content and variety of content will give you a lot of things to do. You can play stories, you can just pick up jobs, you can go with random encounters, you can solve environmental puzzles, you can do races, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot to do, and also the endgame activity looks pretty neat at the moment. But now that we've spoken about all the systems, how do they play? How does it feel? If we would talk about a shooter, we would talk about gunplay here. And they executed their combat and their steering model very, very good. This is by no means a simulation. This is an arcadey looter shooter with a very good accessibility, which doesn't mean that there isn't a learning curve and that this game is always easy. Especially with the light ship classes, you have to play along with your special abilities. Otherwise, you will be swarmed and killed in no time. But other ships are specifically built to hop in close range and do exactly that, so you will find a ship and a class, I think, for every playstyle. But the combat itself and the control system for your ships are excellent, and that's very, very important, because that's a huge, or the main part of this game. If the combat model would not work, then the whole game would not work. But no worries here, everything is fine in that regard. Another very important system of the game is crafting. And the crafting system is already in a very fleshed out state and nearly complete. And as you can see, there's a lot going on here. This is the crafting inventory, which is a separate inventory, so it's not filling up your ship's inventory, which is very nice. And as you can see, there's a boatload of materials that you can obtain through various encounters and mining and other stuff. I think this needs to be streamlined a little bit, but we will see. You can craft your primary weapons. You start with the common ones and then you get blueprints for the uncommon ones, the rare ones. As you can see, there's still not everything unlocked, and the superior ones. Now this works by looting blueprints from enemies, but also disassembling the associated weapons. Like if you disassemble 3 beam lasers, then you will have unlocked your beam laser blueprint, and these come in 4 different rarities. You can also craft every module of your ship, your consumables, and they also added catalysts in the game. So these work like special abilities that can be attached to weapons or shields to enhance certain aspects of these items, of your equipment. Like more power for your shields or more range for your weapons and stuff like that. So you can tinker around again and modify your equipment. That again is a very nice long-term progression system. You obtain these blueprints usually during high-risk encounters, which are again a special kind of procedural generated encounters. So overall I think that the crafting system is very well thought out and works very nicely. I can see myself playing around with this a lot in the end game. Let's talk about early access work in progress features. Now we all know the true end game in every RPG is fashion. So customizing your ship is very important. As you can see, you have different color schemes that you can apply to your ship. You can customize your paint job and your detailing, which is decals and your emissive lights. What's not here is cockpit. We also have a cockpit view with this game, and you can customize your cockpit, and you can also customize your exterior, like the wings and other stuff of your ship. This will definitely come to the game, but it is not here yet. And by the way, the different ship designs are just absolutely awesome in this game. So whoever they have hired to design their ships, give that man a prize. I really adore the ship designs of this game. Absolutely fantastic. We have some other stuff that is work in progress, and that is the balancing. They started with some kind of environmental leveling. Means every time you leveled up, your environment leveled up too. That was not so well received in the community, because when you leveled up and your ship gained a level like level 20, but your weapons and your shield and your whole equipment is still level 19, felt like you lost power despite leveling up, and that was not a very good experience. They just installed a first pass of a hybrid system where you can out-level things, but also there is some adaptive leveling going on. This balancing is not perfect, it's better than before, but they also stated they will collect feedback and work on that feature until full release. So expect the balancing not being perfect right now. I also think that in terms of optimization there will come a few passes. Right now the game looks really beautiful, but it's also very demanding. But again, I think that's just early access work in progress. So what are my overall thoughts for Everspace 2? I think first of all it's important to see what kind of vision the developers had. And we are talking about a small development team. This is not a AAA title, but it definitely delivers in the AAA territory in terms of amount of content and how fleshed out the game is. Now, the developers stated that their vision for this game is more an RPG-like looter shooter like Diablo in space, and not so much like a Freelancer 2. And a lot of people, myself included, are waiting for a new Freelancer-like installment. So if you look at this game and you expect Freelancer 2, you might be disappointed. But if you see the vision the developer had for this game, they nailed what they wanted to achieve, and that is very important for this kind of game. Instead of catering to everyone, just sticking to their vision and executing this vision in perfection makes for a much better game. I personally would have preferred they have not invested that much in gimmick tools like puzzles and races and put more effort in deeper mining or trading mechanics or escort-like missions and stuff like that. But for what the developer wanted to achieve, they achieved it very, very well. It is a little bit like a fictional Diablo in space, and a fictional Freelancer 2 had an imaginative baby. It definitely has some elements and feelings of a Freelancer experience, but it leans a lot more in a Diablo-like looter-shooter, arcadey space thing, if that makes any sense to you. But in the end, it is great fun to play, and it is really nice to see for a change such a polished and well thought out product, and we are still talking early access here. I do hope they stick to their original plans to release this game early 2023, and you will see me covering this game a lot, like a showcase for all the ships and classes and some guides. So if you're interested in that, feel free to subscribe and leave a like. But for now, that's all about Everspace 2. Take good care of yourself and enjoy your gaming sessions.